Okay, let's find the midpoint between 2 points on our Cartesian plane. All right, we can see that we've got our 2 points here. We've got A, we've got B, and the middle point is going to be somewhere sort of around here, but we can't tell. I mean, we could try and just guess there, but what we're going to do is use a simple formula, because really the middle is when we add our x values together and divide by 2. And same with our y values. Okay, so we get our 2 points, and if we can use this formula, then we don't have to draw the diagram every single time. That would be fantastic. So my x1 and my x2 are here. All right, remember how we labelled? That's x1, and then your y value from the first point will be y1. The second point we'll call x2, y2. If there was a third point, we'd go with x3, y3. Anyway, our midpoint, following the formula up above, I'm not going to write it again because we've just got it right there. So x1 plus x2, so that means it's going to be 7, right, plus our x2, which is this one, so plus minus 9 all over 2. And then we're going to do y1, right, y1 plus y2. Okay, and you know, I can write plus -6 like that, but really we know, we've done this so many times now, we know that when we've got a positive and a negative there, right, the plus and the minus, different sign makes a minus. So it's going to be 7 take 9, okay, and this will be 5 take 6. So we tidy up. So 7 take 9 is minus 2 over 2. 5 take 6 is minus 1 over 2. If you get, bigger numbers, by all means, feel free to use your calculator. So we simplify, always simplify. It's minus 1 minus a half. And let's just see what this looks like on our graph. So minus 1 is here. And then we're just going to go minus a half. So that looks like, that's pretty good. That looks like our middle of the 2 points there. That's pretty much it. Just sub into that formula and away you go. But while we're here, we're going to look at a question of what happens if you have the midpoint and you don't have one of the other coordinates. But we'll just do one more of these where we've got 2 points and we want to find the midpoint, okay? Just to get you comfortable. So once again, we're using our formula. I'm going to write it. Again, it's nice to have it right underneath your points, okay? And then you will remember it. Oops. Writing and talking at the same time, bit of a challenge. So x1 plus x2, so we add our x values together, add our y values together, and divide by 2. So the hardest bit is which one's your x, which one's your y, and by now this shouldn't be a problem for us. So here's x1, here's x2. If you put them the other way around, that's okay. You get the same answer. So we're going to say minus 3, okay, plus minus 1, so that just becomes minus 1. And we have to divide that by 2. Why? Because the formula tells us to. And then we've got y1 plus y2. So there's y1. That's our second y value, so y2, and that's just going to be 6 plus 4 divided by 2. Okay, minus 3 take 1 is minus 4. Minus 4 over 2 is minus 2. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and there we go. That's the midpoint. That's the point that lies in the middle of C and D. Okay, so just whack it in there all the time. Make sure you cancel your fractions. That's all that we need to do. The second type of question that we're going to get is this one, where you're given 1 point and you're given the midpoint, and then you have to find what is the other coordinate. So obviously this point is right in the middle. This length and this length are the same, and so somewhere we've got this other coordinate. So all we're going to do is we're going to use our midpoint formula once again. So let's remind ourselves, write it down again. So midpoint equals x1 plus x2 over 2 y1 plus y2 over 2. Okay, but this time, instead of going, well, I'm just going to add our 2 points together, right? Our midpoint is the one in the middle, midpoint. So we've actually got 2, 1 is our midpoint. And we don't know what the other coordinate is, so let's call this just x and y. Okay, so that means we're going to say this point and this point, right? If we add those two together and divide by 2, that gives us our midpoint there. Okay, so it's going to be, and again, it doesn't matter which one we start with, I'm going to say x plus, okay, the negative 6. So x plus minus 6 becomes x take 6 all over 2. Okay, and then it's going to be y plus 5, right, because that's your y2. Just go back and show you and label that. Okay, so I'm going to call this one, that's going to be the x1, which we just call x and y. And then this one is your x2 and your y2. Okay, so that's where we get x plus minus 6, right? X plus minus 6. And now that has to equal this x value in here. Has to. It can't equal anything else. So that's what I'm going to put right to the side. Okay, so this, use this, right? 2, this whole term here, 2, that has to equal this whole expression here. So we're going to write that down. And that becomes x minus 6 all over 2 equals 2. Okay, now we want to get to x. So I'm reading this, x takes 6 divided by 2. The last thing I said was divide 2. So to get rid of a divide by 2, a little bit of algebra here sneaking in. To get rid of the divide by 2, I have to times 2, because that's going to make that disappear. But what I do to one side, I must do to the other. Okay, so that's how we end up with x takes 6 equals 2 times 2 is 4. Now, how do I get rid of this take 6? What is the opposite of taking 6? Adding 6. And I have to do that to the other side. Again, I'm technically doing it to both sides. Okay, so we're adding 6 here, but what's minus 6 plus 6? That disappears. And so I have to add 6 to the other side. So we get 10. And then we're going to do the same with the y values. Okay, so let's get a different colour. What will one be seen? Nice pale. Okay, so what we're now saying is that this y value here, right, has to equal this whole y value here. And we'll write that. We say y plus 5 all over 2 must equal, oops, what happened to my 2, must equal the 1. And again, what you need to do is get to your y value. So how do I get rid of this divide by 2? Because if I read it, y plus 5 divided by 2, how do I get rid of a divide by 2? I times by 2. So we times up the other side, right? Times 1 times 2 is 2. And how do I get rid of a plus 5? We take 5. So 2 take 5 is minus 3. So we're left with this point, which is 10 minus 3. Now if we look at our graph, so we go over here at minus 10 and then we go down to minus 3. That seems like a pretty reasonable answer. And if you really wanted to, you could now check 10 minus 3, and what was our other point here? Right, minus 6, 5. You could now pop that into your formula and you'll see if we get the same answer, which we'll get this answer of 2, 1. But let's just trust that that will happen. Okay, let's do one more of those. Okay, so another example. Fine, all right, we've got the midpoint between A and B is this. Okay, so this is my midpoint. So if we don't need to draw this, right, this is the whole point of using formulas. We don't have to draw them. We just plug it away. So write your formula down. Okay, so which one is our midpoint? Very clearly read your question. So that's it's minus 6 and 8. Okay, and that's going to equal x1 plus x2. So here's an x and here's an x. Now, it doesn't matter if I write 3 plus x over 2 or if I write x plus 3 over 2. I prefer keeping my unknown first, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, and then we want to do our y's. So these are our y values here. So y plus negative 11. So y plus minus 11 is we take. Okay, and what do we say now? Well, it has to be, it can't be any other option. It has to be that minus 6 has to equal x plus 3. And of course, 8 has to equal y take 11 over 2. And that's what we do, and we solve them separately. Okay, so x plus 3 equals minus 6. We've sort of done this a few times now. So x plus 3 divided by 2. Last thing I said was divide by 2. So that's what we have to get rid of first. So how do I get rid of a divide by 2? Right, the opposite of dividing is timesing, and we do that to the other side. So minus 6 times 2 is minus 12. Now, how do I get rid of the plus 3? The opposite of plus 3 is take 3. All right, so it's minus 12, and we take 3 from the other side, from that side. So minus 12 take 3 is minus 15. And now we do the y. So y take 11 over 2 has to equal the y here. Okay, so that's 8. Okay, same deal, we want to get y. So y take 11 divided by 2. To get rid of that divide by 2, you guessed it, we will times, right? So times the other side by 2. So that becomes 8 2s are 16. And how do I get rid of it? Take 11. Opposite of take, correct, plus. So y will be 27, and therefore my b coordinate is minus 15, 27, and we're really glad that we did not have to graph that because that's too big. Okay, so two types of question. One, when you're actually just finding your midpoint, so you just plug the values in, so you make sure you read what the question is asking you to do, and then there's a second type of question where it will give you, right, it gives you the midpoint, and you have to find one of the missing coordinates. All right, so good luck, hope that helps.